about 1 a.m. and he starts to rush to pull my vehicle out of the spot. As I got outside, he was hooking it up on the back end to pull it out, and I immediately started to yell, "Yo, what are you doing?" And as he does it, I watch my vehicle fall off the back end of the tow truck. And yeah, and immediately I was just more in shock. I just started yelling. I was like, "Yo, you just dropped my car!" Like, now I found out just yesterday that my car is totaled.
Laying awake at night, you hear a noise, only to discover that your car is being towed with maybe a child in the back seat. One man, one mission: recover the car, recover the child. Let's see if we can help this caller. Hans Gruber, you're having some car trouble. How can we help you?
Yeah, so essentially, just to kind of explain the backstory of everything, I came out to have my vehicle being towed probably about 2 weeks ago now. As I got outside, he was hooking it up on the back end to pull it out, and I immediately started to yell, "Yo, what are you doing?" And it startled the tow truck driver. This is about 1 a.m., and he starts to rush to pull my vehicle out of the spot. And as he does it, I watch my vehicle fall off the back end of the tow truck. And yeah, and immediately I was just more in shock. I just started yelling. I was like, "Yo, you just dropped my car!" Like, I wasn't even worried about the tow in the moment. I was more worried about my vehicle, and he never stopped once, never got out to look at the damages. He hurried up and rushed to get in front of it. Struggled for a second, picked it up, and hammered it out of my parking lot. Took me a couple hours to find my car, and then once I found it, they just told me, they're like, "Yeah, there's some minor damage to the right rear tire." And I was like, okay, minor damage, maybe a flat tire when I get there, something small. To whereas now I found out just yesterday that my car is totaled. Unlawfully, I believe, towed my vehicle. And then my apartment complex, which is, it was on a private lot, has kind of backed me and said that, they don't understand why they towed me. They shouldn't have towed me. And they've also just felt like it was pretty open and shut, that they should just cover the damages. And I've submitted an email to them, basically just telling them what happened. They responded with, A, that they didn't drop my vehicle after reviewing camera footage. It's just a weird thing for me to make up in the moment, But B, they also said they reviewed the camera footage and that nobody was outside.
Wow.
I've got camera footage of me outside because I didn't catch them dropping it, but I obviously immediately thought, get your phone out, start recording from here. And you can even hear me in the video yelling, "You just dropped my effing car." And it's like I was telling my apartment complex. I was just like, why in the heat of the moment would I be saying that unless my car was just dropped?
I want to tell you that this is a thing that I have heard over again and again. We've had multiple people in the short. By the way, if you're watching at home, don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, you can go to hardlylegal.com and sign up to be a caller and get help just like this caller, Hans Gruber. But we've had multiple people reach out about having their cars towed from their own apartment complexes where they live, and the cars were parked legally, or they had a citation but they didn't update it, or they had a pass and they didn't update it, and it's like, hey, I'm already paying to live here, why are you telling me? It's a pretty common thing. What I've never heard, this is the first call, I've never heard of somebody rushing it and totaling the car from the tow. That's a pretty bad day. Yeah. So this happened recently, a couple weeks ago, right?
Yes, sir. The 22nd.
Okay. Now, have you contacted the tow company yet? What is the tow company saying?
Yeah, so I reached out to them initially, just because. So on the 6th of August, they stickered my vehicle for a flat tire to my front left flat tire. I work from home. I don't drive my car much, so I hadn't been out to observe it. And hey, I came out, seen that sticker. The very next day, I fixed it. So this was on the 7th when I fixed it. They basically said I had until the 8th, or else they would tow me. Never towed me on the 8th. My car sat out there for 2.5 weeks. They've been in my parking lot, never touched my vehicle, and then was even in the lot that morning prior to towing it. Didn't pick up my vehicle. And then that night, they tried to say it was for expired registration is why they towed it that night. And which just leads me to my next thing is, so I have Missouri plates on my vehicle.
Okay.
Missouri plates are set up as far as registration goes. Instead of getting a sticker in your windshield like you would at Texas, you get a sticker on your license plate, and all it displays is the year. So my car really isn't registered anywhere in Texas. The year on the license plate of the registration is 2024. And so which leads me to, how did he determine that my car had expired registration? And then B, how did he verify that? And so also, unlawfully towing my vehicle and the whole process of it. Whenever I reached out to them about the damages and trying to get their insurance claim, their response was obviously they reviewed their footage, but then they also tried to say that my tires were defected and that it exploded in transit. That therefore they are denying the damages. My tires were less than a year old, or right around a year old, have less than 5,000 miles on them. So very in good shape tires, to say the least. And so I responded. I said, okay. I said, I'll be reaching out, to an attorney. And I said, I'm not only going to sue for damages to my vehicle, but I want you for wrongfully towing my vehicle. And
so is their position that they're towing you because of the expired tag or because the wheel was flat or the tire was flat?
That's the thing. And then so whenever I emailed them initially to tell them, like, hey, like, you guys wrongfully towed my vehicle, they even responded back saying, oh, yeah, we can see in our system that it was ticketed for a flat tire. And they so essentially said, since that's what you were stickered for, they said, we're going to release your vehicle to you at no charges. So I didn't have to pay to pick it up or anything. And I got there and just my vehicle was damaged. I've spoken to my apartment because I even said to them, I said, how did they determine my tags were expired, number one, and number two, were they sent here to tow my vehicle from you guys? And my apartment complex just kind of said, no, we don't understand why they towed your vehicle. Your vehicle shouldn't have been towed. And just kind of through the whole process have just backed me through, agreeing that the tow truck company had just basically acted negligent throughout the whole process.
What is the apartment complex, since they're admitting that your car shouldn't have been towed, what is their recommendation or remedy for this?
So initially when I spoke to him, he started talking about, discounting my rent would be the easiest thing for him. And then he said if that didn't work for me, obviously he could work with my insurance, or the last, step would be, he said we could get corporate to cut you a check. So there really hasn't been.
What I would do.
What'd you say?
I said I think I already know what I would do.
Yeah, I would say here's the cost of the car, and here's the cost of what I had to pay to tow. That's my rent. Just take that off the rent, and then you're even Steven, right?
How much is a car worth?
So man, that's the thing, man. I had it quoted on Carvana back in March of this year, and it was quoted for $9,400 or like $9,800.
Okay.
And then I did it the other day just since this has happened, just to see what my car's worth. And I've driven it 2,000 miles since that quote, and now it's trying to say my car's worth like $5,800.
Well,
Not quite sure.
It's probably less. It's more the car market and less your car and the miles. Yeah, there's been there was an inflationary period, and now it's kind of settling. Bill, I'm a wild card. I haven't done a wild card in a couple shoots. But,
okay.
So maybe there's liability on the part of the apartment complex.
There is.
Thank you, Jamie.
Sorry, I have heavy feelings about this because we've all been towed, and it is the most frustrating thing. I loved it. He goes, it took me 2 hours. That's the other thing. They tow the car, and it goes to some mystery land.
Yes.
And then you're like, where's my car? And they go, wouldn't you like to know?
Yes.
It's crazy.
Toronto.
Yeah.
So maybe there is liability. Probably there's liability. There's definitely liability on the part of the apartment complex. But there's also separate liability of the tow truck company, because there's the question here of, was there a wrong that is its own separate thing that the apartment complex did, and then is there a separate wrong that is its own uninterested thing? And so if the apartment complex wants to take an amount off my rent, as long as there's nothing in that agreement that says this matter is done, I think I take that win now. I go get my own separate. This releases the apartment complex of their liability, and then I double down going after the tow truck company. But I if they were offering you a bird in the hand today on that, I think I take that just off the bat. I go, let's get that, let's write that, make sure nothing says.
So you're saying get the full amount from the apartment.
What is the full amount?
You get free rent for a year.
No, but you got to decide what the full amount is.
That isn't what is the full amount and what is the wrong, right?
That's what the job is, to decide what is the full amount.
Yeah, is it $9,800? Is it $5,800? Is it, his pain and suffering, emotional distress, 1 a.m., this guy and that car was in my family for a year.
Yeah.
That's the ambulance. Don't chase it.
No, man, but like you're spot on though, because I ain't gonna lie to you.
He's on my side here. He sees checks. He's on. I got the collar.
I hear noises out in my parking lot, and all of a sudden, doesn't matter what time of the night, I could be in my sleep. I'm like hopping up to check outside, like, what's
PTSD.
going on?
PTSD.
PTSD.
Millions.
And, like, I know it's like I'm not trying to play a card here, but I'm being serious when I say, man, like I'm like constantly looking outside now because, like, hey, it's probably lucky that I 1 a.m. I happen to look outside my window and be like, hey, like, oh shoot, they're towing my car.
How much money could they give you to make you not look out the window?
Oh shoot, that's a good question. A new car. That would be.
That's the question. What's the number? He asked for a number.
I think he can get. I don't want to say paid twice,
I don't
but
think so
paid
either.
separately. I
You
do.
ever try to mess with tow companies?
The tow companies, first of all, yes. Is it possible? Possible. Tow companies do not give a shit.
They
They
don't.
hire the scummiest, lowest down, don't give a cat, just $5 an hour
And if this was a
lawyers.
regular tow, I'd be on your side. But they totaled the vehicle towing it. This was not a well. All of the evidence is against the tow company.
He's still driven
here.
it 2,000 miles since then, right?
Yeah. So how is it totaled when you drove it off the lot and used it for a while? That's not totaled. Total's when it's undrivable, right?
Yeah. So what's the thing? So whenever this happened, I got there. I immediately just had it towed to a body shop because I was like, hey, I'm not driving this thing. I was like, there's a lot of damage here, and I'm not going to get into a game. Well, hey, you drove it off the lot. You could have done that damage. So I just towed it right from the tow yard to the body shop, and without even touching the vehicle, they were like, "Yeah, this is at least $4,000 in damages." That's what the estimate they gave me was. And
on a $5,000 car.
Exactly. And so,
Okay, that's totaled. All right.
So did they fix it? So did they fix it?
So I haven't had it fixed yet. I hadn't heard.
So he hasn't driven it. Have you been driving it?
No, he hasn't driven it.
No, I haven't driven it at all.
He hasn't driven
He
it.
drove the miles since the estimate of what the car was.
Yeah,
worth,
not since the accident.
The car's effectively total.
I'm not against you trying to do more stuff, and there's some soft damages that are enough, right? Like, could you have been injured, $10,000 worth? Sure. I mean, this is not an exact science in any jurisdiction. So I don't mean to poo-poo the idea.
I'm just
of
saying,
trying
what if he
to
had left?
recompense.
What if he'd left his child
I just don't like
in the car?
I just don't like the
and
idea.
then now
that
they're
it's,
stealing his child in the car. You
I know,
never
but he's not. That's not the situation.
Who knows? Who's to say? Who's to say?
He's to say he doesn't have a kid. He
Hold
just
on, caller. Do you have a kid?
I don't.
So now that kid's gone forever. He doesn't have the kid because the tow truck took the car and the kid. He's down one kid.
Someone's on his shit right now. So let's look at the lawsuit.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Can I tell you guys another part of a story real quick? So after I sent that email back after they denied my damages, I just told them, I said, okay, I'm going to be contacting an attorney. The very next day, and I'm not even joking you guys when I say this, 10 a.m., 10:30, I hear a vehicle running outside. And again, like I told you, I've been extra tweaker
You've
here
become
lately.
Daredevil.
Looking out my
He's
window.
become Daredevil.
Yeah, and so I look outside my window, and guess who's sitting right outside my window where they towed my vehicle? Guys, the exact same tow truck, the exact same license plate. And this is the day after I told them. I said, okay, I'm going to hire an attorney, and I'm going to go after you. The very next day, he sat outside my window for 5 minutes, and I go out there. I was able to take pictures of him, more or less like show him, like, hey, like, I know you've seen me. Obviously, I see you. And, he doesn't look at any vehicles. Doesn't like he's doing anything there like he was supposed to be doing a job or anything. And he slowly pulls out of the lot and he leaves.
Did you see him abduct any more children?
Hey, possibly, he was, who knows what he's doing, right? And so I go down there to my apartment, and I'm like, hey, I said, it's kind of, call it a coincidence, whatever you want, but you're telling me the same driver, same truck, same license plate, the day after I send this email is showing back up outside my apartment. Coincidence, or what are we thinking?
Intimidation.
Yes.
It seems like intimidation.
And so then his exact response, and I'm not just saying this, his exact response was, that's interesting. I don't know what he would be doing here right now.
Sounds like he has an unhealthy obsession with you. I think you got a stalker.
That's the thing, and even looking at
have you dated any tow truck drivers lately?
I guess not. I mean, maybe, who knows?
Okay, so let me jump in on what one, it's possible that he was there intimidating you. I personally think he was there looking to see if there were any cameras.
Yeah.
Looking around to
Didn't
see,
even think of that.
was there any
Brilliant.
evidence? Was there any cameras? Was there anything there in the light of day? What's there? Is he picking up some shit that he dropped or whatever? That might have been it, which is why he just booked it out of there. The other part is that I think as part of your full relief and thinking about what you want, go ahead and submit that old value, right? Ask for some additional dollars. I wouldn't break it down very much. I would just say, look, this is going to cover this, and this. I got to go buy a new car. The new car market's more expensive, whatever it is. You can give the $9,800, add on, the tell them, like, look, you got to take it off the rent, the hassle, blah, blah, blah. Ask for all of that. I think you do separately ask the tow truck company for it, and maybe they'll give you some, maybe they won't. But if you
demand letter, I don't think you ask.
Yeah, demand letter. That's what I mean. Demand letter. Yes. So
writing.
Josh is going to talk about demand letter in a second. The other part is you need to ask your apartment complex to notify email or write and say this driver is not allowed on the property anymore, and you need to get them in writing and say, have they fired this company or are they holding on to them or not? And that's going to help with the anxiety part. That's, I think, going to help with the anxiety part.
Are there cameras, by the way? Does the apartment?
No, man. So in the same, guys, I live in like what I would consider a luxury apartment complex. My car was hit and run, a different vehicle of mine, but hit and run in the same parking lot probably about 5 months ago, and that's the first question I asked: is there cameras? The answer's no, only on the main building.
Does any of your neighbors who would face that way, do they have a Ring camera on their door that they might have? It might be too long ago now, but
I know one guy that has his dash cam, but he doesn't park anywhere near me.
Yeah.
The thing that's crazy about this is not right next door to me apartment-wise, but I live on like the end of my building, and so my apartment complex has apartments and townhomes, and so to the left of my apartment is a townhome building, and it's literally my apartment manager. And so this happened right outside of his building that night. And another part of I guess the whole towing process, guys, is like the negligence on towing a bare rim, 30 minutes. So they towed this from, North Fort Worth to almost Arlington on a bare rim.
With a child in the back. Look,
with a child in the back.
Here's the thing. We take child abduction very seriously here.
We don't
at
actually.
The Hardly Legal
We
Show.
really don't.
I just want to tell you, okay, that my advice is going to differ from Bill a little bit here, okay? This car is worth $5,000 to $9,000, okay? Just talking to you off the record here. I think it's kind of cool that your PTSD has given you a heightened sense of where cars are at all times. You're basically Daredevil now, okay? Your odds of getting emotional distress or pain and suffering are basically so low that I don't think it's worth
Welcome to
pursuing
Better
that.
Call Saul.
Well, I'm saying I don't think he's going to get it. I'm saying he's just got the Daredevil powers, and that's his thing to live with.
Yeah,
but you're not going to get paid for that, too, okay? However, I do think your apartment complex is willing to pay ball at least on reducing rent, and you should get the bird in the hand now, because here's the reality. This car might only been worth $5,000 or $6,000 in the current market. And if you can get $7,000 right now taken off your rent over the next 8 months, one, you've already established a win. But then two, nothing about that has to say anything about you going after the tow truck. And so a release of liability, there's different language. If the language said, okay, my apartment complex is going to give me $7,000 in exchange for the totality of the damages to my vehicle, you would have a hard time then get double dipping and getting the same thing done and getting paid out of both sides of it from the tow company. But if you just say, I'll release you of any liability you might have in this instance, that's different than saying you're paying me for the damages. You're releasing the apartment complex for their liability.
Right.
Then you have the ability, with all that money already secured, to go harass and send demand letters and file in small claims court and go after the tow truck, which would normally be hard to go after. But two things are in your favor here. One, they negligently towed, they improperly towed, so they damaged the vehicle outside of whatever permissions they might have. They have limited permission to access the property and remove vehicles from it, but to do so in a professional and safe manner. Not only did they not do that, but there was a goddamn child in the back seat the entire time. And that's where I think they're going to settle.
Here's what I'm going to say why that's a waste of your time. Because you can't double recover.
Yeah.
So once you ask, and let's say the apartment complex gives you the full amount that you ask for, they are then going to turn around and demand that full amount from the tow truck company. And then they're going to look at that letter and go, oh, they paid this guy $10,000 or whatever, and so we're not going to pay you.
Well, that's why I was so careful to say this is just a release of liability from the instance, and this is compensation for the damages.
I mean, you can try to do that.
I'm not.
You could try to do that, but I think that even if you had jumped through the legal hoop of distinguishing the scope of the releases, that the tow trunk company is still going to go, no, we're not paying you. And then you got to sue them to try and get a windfall. Which
we're saying that
and monetarily
it's a waste of time.
Why would it be a waste of time to sue them?
Because you're going to lose when you go and try and get a double recovery.
They're going to say, didn't you get you already got the money for this. You
right.
got it
Well, but
rent.
then either way, you still get the recovery in mind. You're still
But you've already gotten the recovery.
Take the
if
money.
you've already
I'm
got
saying
the
you're paid
recovery.
once.
Here's my question.
Shoot the glass.
Now you're losing time value of money to try and pursue.
So you're saying let the tow truck company off, take
No,
the rent.
I'm saying you've
ignore
got
the rent.
There are 3 tortfeasors and $1 million of damage. If one tortfeasor pays you $1 million, you can't go after the other 2 to get more. You just get your total amount.
Yeah, but I think there's different theories here. I mean, okay, I want to be the first person to admit Bill's a better attorney than me, but I'm more creative than him.
I
really do think he is. I really
No, that you're more creative.
I don't agree with anything you've said, Josh.
Yeah, I only agree that you might be named Josh.
And I played a lawyer on television.
Yeah, I saw him.
I think that there's a nuance here, and that this is not just the question of who's replacing the vehicle. If it was just a question,
not the vehicle. I'm saying total damages, whatever the total amount he's
and
going to
there's
ask
ideas
for.
and theories of damages. There is the theory of him having emotional distress. There is the theory of potentially his rights being
He's got
violated.
a tortfeasor who's willing to pay.
Get laughed
right
at
now.
a court.
Yell over
They
each
towed
other.
my car and I can't sleep. Come on,
Okay,
it's
go
not
ahead.
going to happen.
Keep going. I want to hear
That's
your
why
theory so I can shoot
was
it down.
proposing. I love the hostility of this show. I was proposing the eccentric settlement to go to the apartment complex, the one that's non-traditional, the one that says a general release, the one that was way broader than just the vehicle, because if you went to court, it would be very hard to prove the PTSD. But if you made the agreement with the property management company wide and broad and covering all those fringy things, then you could argue over here, yeah, that settlement was for all this other stuff. It wasn't for the $5,800 the car's worth. They're the ones that towed the car and destroyed it. That's what this settlement's about.
Okay, I think the practical
It's novel. I don't know.
practical reality is that you just determine what is the total damage, and you ask the apartment complex: is it 10? Is it 15? Is it 18? And then if they give it to you, then maybe it's a combination of cash and rent, reprisal, whatever.
The fact that offer even came in, and by the way, I am the king of getting retribution for being wronged. I'm great at. My wife's like, "Can you call them?" And I call. Here's the trick: it's tough to get money. Mm-hmm. If all of a sudden, if you ask for money, people their backs go up. They go, "Fuck you! I'm not giving you a penny." And you go, "Well, how can we fix this situation?" And then the rental company goes, "You know what? Pick a number." Whatever your rent is, divide it by that. Go, if it's $1,000 a month,
what was the number
then
they
$9,000, 9 months. I want 9 months free rent. And if you sign off with that, because that's corporate, they don't give a shit. That's not coming out of anybody's pocket who agrees to it. The guy who's going to agree to that money, he's like, that's not my money. I don't give a shit. Absolutely. 9 months free. They write a fucking note, free run, nothing happens. But to go, I want money from a tow company?
The tow companies are run by trolls.
You commit to a tow company?
Our last call was a murder, and before we started this one, I was like, finally a call where we're not gonna, it's not gonna be emotional. And there's been more yelling on this call.
Well, that's because we've all been towed. Here's one time.
I haven't been murdered.
Did the guy fuck up towing? Of course he did. One time I was walking back to my car. I see a cop writing me a ticket. I go, dude, what's happening? He goes, yeah, the meter expired. I look at the meter. There's 27 minutes left on the meter. It's
What?
this old meter maid dude
Yeah.
doing it. And I go, dude, you want to take another gander at that? There's 27 minutes there. And I was about to fucking just annihilate this idiot. I go, what if I hadn't come up? And he turns to me, he goes, my wife passed away a week ago. It's been a really tough week. I go, all right, man, no biggie. Mistakes happen. That's how humans work. If you can just get exchange for your value, it's a win. Anytime you can get that, the fact that they even offered that money is shocking.
Okay,
to me.
we've all made.
Can
ahead,
I ask a
yeah.
question, Mr. Gruber?
Hans,
excuse me, Mr. Hans Gruber.
We're all friends here.
We're all friends. What is it that you're wanting out of this situation? Are you wanting
His
maximum?
child back.
His child. Thank you. Are you?
Stop it with that.
Are you wanting your money to cover your losses? Are you wanting a ton of money? Or are you wanting to get back at the tow company? Because there's a few ways you can go about this. I'm a lazy person by design. So I'm going to try to get, if I just want my money back, the path of least resistance here is to go through the apartment complex. I'm not going to bother trying to go after incompetent. I don't like incompetent people. 2 things know about me. I'm lazy. I don't like incompetence. I'm not going to go after the tow trucker because I'm not going to make any headway when I can get just as easily my money back by going through the apartment complex. Yeah. So my question is, what do you want?
Yeah. So personally, my worry now in this situation is, so I'm on my like last year of payments on this vehicle, and so I owe just under $5,000. However, with the new, value of my vehicle, that's going to pay it off. Well, then I'm left without a vehicle. You see, so like now it's more so like, yeah, you can talk about just making it right. Well, just making it right and paying the damages in this. Now I'm still without a vehicle, I guess, is how I view it. And so now I feel like I need a little bit more just because I'm going to have to get a new vehicle.
Just to be clear, you owe $5,000 on a car you've owned for quite a while. That's only worth $5,800. Is that the...
Yeah, and so, like, that's the thing. Yeah,
How that happened?
So there's a tow truck accident here, and there's also a series of a bad investment that happened long before it was towed.
The car was worth $9,400. I mean,
when you bought it for, how much did you buy it for?
Oh, I bought this back in 2019 for... Oh shit, 18,000. I want to say.
Okay, hold on. We're getting off the weeds here. We're getting off the weeds. If you get $5,000 for a $5,000 car, that's $5,000. You use that to go buy another car. If what you're saying is you can't buy a car for $5,000 right now,
he still owes $5,000 on that car. He's saying I owe $5,000 on the car that's only worth $5,800.
But
that's $800 to go buy a car.
Right. Okay, so my point is you were gonna have to buy. Okay, I get what you're saying.
Let's get on to the bankruptcy.
Give the 9,000.
Give
the 9,000 number. Tell them, look, I'm gonna take this much. I need 5,000 in cash, and I need 5,000 in rent reprieve. Boom, do it. And then if they bitch and moan, you're going to say, go get it from the tow company, because there's only 2 things that happened here. Either you guys didn't take me off the list like you should have, or they didn't take me off the list, and your vendor, you have a right to go get this money back from them if you want to get it. But either way, I need the money now, or I'm going to the news, I'm going to the press, I'm going to Josh and Jamie and Heidi and Bill, all of them.
Yeah. So, which leads me to my last question I kind of have. So
where is my child?
When I filed this through my insurance, the first thing they said is they would have their segregation team and
subrogation.
There you go.
One of those is illegal.
Then what? So they basically said that they would have them go after the tow truck, and so would that still be doing the same thing and then going to my apartment complex and saying, hey, I still want that money? Like, is that still a good route to take, or what do you guys think?
So what will likely happen is instead of going to the apartment complex first, they're going to go to the tow company. The tow company, which has shown itself to be despicable, lying sacks of shit, will probably say, "Oh no, the apartment complex told us that it was still no good, right?" And then the subrogation team is going to go after the apartment complex and say, "Hey, you need to give us this money back." And the apartment complex is going to go, "No, we already paid this guy." Yeah. And then the insurance company is going to go, "Hey, insurance fraud."
Yep.
So you only go one route. You either go after both of the defendants or you go through insurance. And since you've already turned it into insurance, you can just tell them, like, look, I don't know what the situation is either way, but you have them pay the full amount. You got to say, like, hey, this is all that I'm entitled to. This is all that I'm out. I'm going to have to get a vehicle. I haven't had a vehicle. I need a rental vehicle. Don't worry about saying work. Just don't worry. You might have to get a job outside of the house. Those are the things that you're going to have to do to take care of this. It's now, especially that you've given it to insurance.
Okay.
Hans Gruber, do you feel like... Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say, do you think it was the right decision to go through insurance, or do you think I should handle this a different route? Like,
no, it's more 80% of the time, maybe even 90% of the time, the right thing is just go through insurance from a time and hassle standpoint. They've got the resources. They have lawyers on hand. They got adjusters, and they'll turn their energy to collecting the money back that they've paid out to you. So that's why I say 89% of the time, it's better to just go through insurance. That's what you've paid for. And you'll only really know if you finally get the amount of money you were going to get, and then you could go back in time and try and do the other way, right? So it's not really worth worrying about, but I'd say 80 to 90% of the time, insurance is the right way to go.
Well, they'll pay off the car for $5,800 being totaled. You'll have to take $5,000 of that to pay off the car, what you owe on it. And you're going to walk with $800 and then try to go buy a new car.
Yeah, you're going to want to argue the value is higher. You're going to want to say this is, like I'm not around. I don't, I need rental. I need all
You
this
can argue
other
what
stuff.
you want, but they're going to look at
But that's what they're going to look at.
They're
Yeah.
going to look at a number at Carvana, whoever, Carfax, and go
Yeah.
$5,800. Hope interest rates go down a little more and maybe the value of it pops a little higher. But I mean, you're gonna start from scratch on the car, and you probably won't even get the money straight up to buy it. You're gonna get it off the off your rent, right? If he doesn't go through the insurance, if he just takes it from
Right. That's why I was saying it had to be cash and rent
Yeah.
reprieve. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hans, this one is tricky. I'm sorry for the loss of your car and child, but we hope that you'll be able to
Just
get a
just
new
running
kid.
that
There's
joke.
always more kids that
The Tim Conway
Yeah.
of lawyers.
Hans Gruber, thank you for coming on the show today. Do you feel like you were heard?
Oh yeah, thank you guys so much. And it was nice just to look at it through,
Awesome.
different avenues and just different, tunnels of vision. So I appreciate all of you guys.
I hope
you
you
so
can
much.
sleep at night and you're not too bothered by passing traffic.
Me too. Have a good week.
Thanks, Hans.
If you have a crazy legal story and you want to talk to some lawyers anonymously, for free, call us.
Wait, we're not getting paid?
Nothing at all. I don't know how we're going to pay for it, to be honest.